find myself heading toward Chinatown in the intersection of Worth and Baxter Streets, just outside the Daniel Patrick Moynihan Federal Courthouse. Once known as the 5 Points for the way streets intersected, the spot was the first notorious center of crime in New York. It was popularized in Martin Scorsese's 2002 film Gangs of New York. Now the area is occupied largely by Columbus Park, where on most days you will find Chinese musicians playing lyrical Asian folk tunes as men play the Chinese version of checkers. Fortune tellers ply their trade, and children play on slides or take to the artificial turf of an athletic field off Mulberry Street. More than a century earlier, the neighborhood, known as Mulberry Bend, was home to dens of thieves and impoverished Italian immigrants who scraped by any way they could. It was a place that even in the late 19th century was considered so filthy and odious that the city every few days would send large trucks filled with a solution of carbolic acid, chloride of mercury, and potash to flush the gutters, streets, and houses where stale beer was sold for 2 cents a glass. It was around these vermin-infested hovels that photojournalist Jacob Riis took the iconic photographs of bandits hanging out at Donovan's Lane, another infamous thoroughfare of the criminal class. Immediately to the west of Columbus Park is the courthouse complex on Center Street with a new house of detention. But in the 19th century, what is now a park outside the criminal court used to be home to the Tombs, the notorious jail which was built on ground above the old Collect Pond, once a draw for the early settlers of Manhattan. The ground under the jail would inexorably sink into the saturated earth, forcing the city to abandon the site. The tens of thousands who pass by this location daily or lounge on its park benches are likely unaware that it was within the walls of the Tombs that the more notorious members of New York's original gangs, as well as other murderers, were executed by hanging from 2 sets of gallows. Walking just a few short blocks north, you will come across places known for celebrated gangland murders, such as the 1972 slaying outside Umberto's Clam House of Joey Crazy Joe Gallo, or the 1983 shooting of Chinese gang leader Michael Chen on Pell Street. Around the corner from Pell Street is the angled Doyer Street, where the Chinatown Tong Wars littered the pavement with blood and bodies during their battles of the early 20th century. Then there is the site of the old Ravenite Social Club on Mulberry Street, where the late John J. Gotti held court and got arrested for the last time one frigid December night in 1990. Gotti's fate was sealed by secret FBI recordings made by a bug planted in an apartment 3 floors up from the club. Those are just a few of the sites within easy walking distance of the 5 Points. Walk a bit farther, and you will come across many other infamous places. While the history and headlines of organized crime may be largely focused in Manhattan, anyone who has looked into the various mobs operating in the Big Apple knows that all the other boroughs have also earned spots on a list of important places in crime lore. Inside the long-defunct Nuova Villa Tamaro restaurant in Coney Island one afternoon in 1931, the feared and hated mob boss Joseph Masseria was shot dead in a coup by his rivals while waiting for his lunch. This was one of the seismic episodes in the 1930s which set the stage for modern organized crime. On a quiet residential street in Brooklyn, the loan shark James Jimmy Doyle Plumeri was dumped after being strangled in 1971. Powerful mafia captain Anthony Little Augie Paisano Carfano and former beauty contestant Janice Drake were shot dead in a car on a quiet Queen Street in 1959. 40 years later, on a quiet Bronx street, Bonanno crime family captain Gerlando George from Canada Sciascia was found with numerous bullet holes in his face and body after being killed on orders from family boss Joseph Massino, a murder which forever soured the alliance between the Canadian mob and the Bonanno family. Another one of Massino's victims, Sonny Black Napolitano, was killed in the basement of a house on Staten Island and buried in a body bag in a wooded area near South Street. Like Napolitano, lots of mob-hit victims were unceremoniously disposed of without the benefits of receiving last rites or a proper burial. Staten Island was a favorite dumping ground of killer Thomas Tommy Karate Patera, since it had a lot of wooded areas and nature preserves. Then there was a vacant lot off Ruby Street on the Queens-Brooklyn border, where in May 1981 3 Bonanno crime family captains were